Hey, what's going on, guys? My name is Dan. Welcome back to EFC's Book Chat. We are on the fourth one of the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen R. Covey. We're finishing up the first habit, which is being proactive. Now, if you remember from my other book chat, the last one of being proactive or how to shift our perspective to be more proactive, I talked about how for some of us, we are living a determinism life where we believe that genetics or our upbringing or our physical environment or mental environment determines how we should go about living our lives. And I think that a lot of the times for us, when we're not being proactive, when we're not thinking actively, how can I change my own situation? We tend to blame or put the fault of our own circumstances on those around us or the environment around us. And the habit of being proactive is all about shifting all the responsibility back to ourselves, because we have the ability to respond in the way that we need to respond or in the way that is better for our mental health, our effectiveness as a human being, etc. And how Covey talks about being proactive is through his analogy of the circle of influence versus the circle of concern. Now, let me kind of briefly just explain each of these circles, right? So the circle of concern are the things that we worry about, the things that concern us, the things that are situations that are affecting us on a day-to-day basis. Now, the circle of influence is the circle in which we have control over. What are the things that we can actually physically, mentally, etc. change? Now, what Covey talks about is taking the circle of concern, which is sometimes ginormous for some of us, right? We worry so much about everything out there in life, and we allow everything out there in life to affect how we live our lives, how we are being effective, how we go about accomplishing our day-to-day goals. And what he talks about is taking the circle of concern and shrinking it into our circle of influence. Our circle of influence being, what can we actually do on a day-to-day basis to change how we are, to change, the effectiveness of how we go about living our lives. And if we're able to take the circle of concern and shrink it within our circle of influence, then we actually have the ability to respond to our concerns. We have the ability to make the changes we need to effectively live our lives a little bit better. So let me give you an example, right? So growing up, I had a terrible relationship with my father. I'm not trying to bring up any daddy issues or anything like that, but growing up, I remember every single time my dad would come home, I would be terrified to talk to him. And it was, he wasn't violent or he didn't yell a lot, etc., but he was kind of a very rigid and strict human being, and it was kind of scary sometimes. And recently, I've talked about this in a few videos, is that I recently adopted my nephew, and he's 8 years old. I've never really interacted with him before, but one of my concerns is, how am I going to be as a 28-year-old who's never really had a child from birth, going to take care of an 8-year-old? How is that even humanly going to be possible for me? And my circle of concern for that problem is ginormous, where I'm thinking about how he feels, how I feel, how everybody else feels, etc. And what I've come to realize is that I need to shrink my circle of concern to what I can actually do. And one of the things that I was really concerned about is whether or not he would actually like me and whether or not he would actually want to talk to me, etc., etc. So one of the things that, after I shrunk down my concerns into things that I know I can handle and I know I can deal with, I thought about, well, if I'm so concerned about us having, meaningful conversations, then what I really should try to do is, during the times that I actually interact with them, right? The morning car ride to school, the afternoon pickup times when we're doing his homework together or going over his homework together, playing card games, playing Monopoly, Uno, etc., cooking dinner, going on weekend trips, all those times I'm really spending time with him, I need to try my hardest to have conversations. And being an introvert and being a very awkward human being, it's actually really difficult for me. But what is really meaningful is that as I am practicing this, I'm actually getting better and better. And Covey actually talks about this as we practice what is within our circle of influence. Our circle of influence actually grows. It grows bigger and bigger and bigger, and our ability to handle a certain response becomes better and better. My ability to talk to kids has dramatically increased from when he came here a couple months ago to now, because I practice what I can practice. I've limited my concerns to the things that I have influence over, and because of that, my circle of influence is growing bigger, and specifically in this specific concern every single day. So when we're thinking about being proactive, just to summarize this for you guys, when we're thinking about being proactive, let's be proactive on the things that we actually have control over. Let's not let anxiety and fear overwhelm us, and let's not worry about all the things that are outside of our control, outside of what we can actually influence, and outside of the things that we can be the direct pilot of changing. Let's not worry about all those other things, because those things are just going to, I don't want to say slow us down, but those things are not going to be anything that we can possibly change. You know, Viktor Frankl cannot change how his Nazi captors viewed him or treated him or etc. But all he could do was change how he viewed his circumstances. By changing his perspective and by having that paradigm shift of just focusing on what he had control over, he was able to overcome something as insane and cruel as what happened during World War II. So I hope that was helpful. Being proactive is all about sticking within your circle of influence. If you found this video valuable, insightful, please like, subscribe, comment down below. I will talk to you guys next time. See you later. Bye.